everybody. I have just switched my language program in my brain from Korean to English. And because this program was developed a very long time ago and haven't updated, so there might be some difficulties in communication between us. So I'm asking you, please listen to my heart rather than my mouth, okay? First of all, I have to thank you to all the participants in this conference, and especially to Helena and to my brother, Cable, who invited me to this wonderful place. My subject is reconnecting to nature. Most people tend to think they can aware of nature when they are surrounded with nature. Yes, it's true, but sometimes it's not true. I came to know this thanks to my long time isolation from the society. As if a man breathing every moment doesn't know what the air is. Yeah? I was imprisoned at the age of 30 when I was at the height of anti-imperialist activism. That time, Korea was under the military dictatorship. One day, the secret police arrested me and tortured for 60 days, not 60 days, to get false confession from me. So I had to surrender. I confessed that I was a North Korean spy. Then they sentenced me lifelong imprisonment. I could be released at the age of 44 when the opposition party leader Kim Dae-jung became the president of the Korea. I had been detained in a small concrete cell for over 13 years. Of course, this was a solitary cell. No one to speak with, no nature at all. All I could see was a concrete cell, a wooden floor, and a very small window. In this circumstance, I became an ecologist, a deep ecologist, a man who was very much politically oriented and totally ignorant about ecology, became a deep ecologist. How had this happened? I'm going to tell you this. I longed very much for nature in the prison, but I couldn't find anything similar. What's the matter? Oh, okay. I explain this pattern later. But I couldn't find anything similar. Everything looked dead and bad at the time. This kind of hopeless situation continued for 5 years. And in the meantime, I became weaker and weaker. And it seemed to end up dying. One day, I was so lonely that I came to play with a dung fly flown into my cell. As I took a shit in my cell, so there were always flies in my room. So in a sense, my cell was kind of a bigger toilet because there's toilet in my small cell. Anyway, while I was playing with this small creature, I came to realize that it represented the whole nature outside, at least in this cell, because there was no other creatures. And I represented the whole human beings to this small fly. A life versus another life. After all, I had to admit, all creatures are equal and has the same value. I, as a poor prisoner, had not a sense of superiority, even compared to with such a small insect. I already experienced the severe torture for 60 days, and by this experience, I couldn't find any ground to insist humans are superior to animals or plants. Then I began to raise wild plants in the prison ground in order to cure my destroyed body. As I found that almost all the medicine herbs are just wild plants in the nature. Then, while I raised them, I watched their growth, cooked and ate them, made tea, and painted their beautiful appearance almost every day. This process changed my whole body and soul. Before I grew these wild plants, the prison was just a place from which I should escape as soon as possible. But now it became a place where I could realize my existential purpose. So from that time, I began to enjoy my prison life. I enjoyed prison life since then. For the first time, I felt feelings of peace and fullness of life. Here, my philosophy of life peace began. And I show you some paintings. This is, I said before. These paintings I made in the prison while I grow them. This is some, you may familiar with some of these. This is foxtail, Majus plumulus, pigweed. Are there pigweed in Australia? Yes, it's all over the world, I think. It's all drawn by a ballpoint pen with watercolor, because that's all I had in prison, ballpoint pen, in the plain paper. And I had been writing these processes like keeping a diary and sent them outside through a letter, because I couldn't keep any writings and any paintings with me in prison. I had to send them out through a letter form. So after my release, I published this into a book titled Wild Plant Letters. And on publishing this book, it became a bestseller. 5 major conservative daily newspapers chose this book as the best book of the year. And up until now, it has been sold over 1 million copies. Yeah, I became a rich man. because of this. I have talked about perceiving nature where there is no nature. From now on, I will talk about another nature inside me. At first, when I got prisoned in solitary cell, I almost got crazy to find nothing to play with. You know, usually books are a good material to play with to a person heavily educated like me. However, there was nothing in the solitary cell except me, my body. So I cannot help but play with my body, my own body. I watched the shape of my body, smelled, touched, massaged, even tasted various parts of my body. Then I began to practice meditation using abundant prison time. At the first, I lost the chance to explain this logo. Just before I said, this is a logo of life peace philosophy or movement. You know, the below is human, the right side is animal, the left side is fish and birds, the upward is plants, the sun and moon. So all those elements connected into one, then we can say life, we are alive. So life cannot exist independently. So this is the logo. What's the matter? Deepening oneness with nature through meditation. At first, I concentrated on breath, then on body. Imagination is very important in doing so. While I was breathing, I imagined all the creatures at this moment were breathing too. We became one through breathing the same air. This imagination was a great relief to me. As long as I breathe, I feel I am a part of the life as a whole. I was not alone in the solitary cell. The second phase of my meditation was done through extension of my body. As I once came to know that I was a part of one as a unity of all life, I tried to extend my body from the solitary cell to the prison boundary and even beyond the planetary boundary. Then I tried to shrink my body reversely to the level of a microorganism through imagination. This exercise made me easier to understand the nature of life. According to modern biology, the whole universe is condensed into a small cell. It's an irony that I learned the secret of modern cell biology in the prison cell. Now, how can ordinary people adapt my personal experience into their daily life? My experience was done where there's no nature or very limited nature. If I had lived in a city engaged in hectic urban life after my release from prison, I would have forgotten all the things I found in the prison. Something acquired by mental activity must go through physical verification in order to be effective. In other words, we must memorize things to our body, not to brain. Okay. Finally, let me add one thing. In order to be as one with nature, we should try to be outside. We should try to live outside of capitalist system as far as possible. This is what I'm attempting to do in the community in which I'm living in Korea. capitalism directs us to give attention only to those who pay and ignore those who cannot, the poor and all other species who have no bargaining power. Nature gives freely. If we are to be as one with nature, we also should give freely. I tell you one small episode here. Just before I came here, I stayed in Crystal Waters community, there you know very well, for 5 days for nothing, even though it was my first visit there. I never asked them to do so. We just shared our ideas and visions. Likewise, I practice the same thing in my community. Anyone who visits my community can stay freely as long as he or she wants. Yeah. The Life Peace organization I belong to has been doing the similar thing. We have had countless gatherings, conferences, festivals, concerts for the last 10 years, but we never asked any money from the participants except donations. Each time we suffered from financial difficulties, but anyhow, we have managed so far, so good. The purpose is obvious. No money system is possible as long as we are connected to nature and community. This is my dream, to expand the no money zone until the capitalists cannot find the market to sell their products. Okay. I'll close my presentation with John Lennon's famous song. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will live as one. Thank you. Thank you very much.